And welcome into the inaugural Mingling with Members event here at EBAA Iron. I'm Terry Stevens, brought to you by Eastland Chamber of Commerce and KTX Radio. We're joined by E.T. Bradley, and E.T. Yesterday privilege of coming out here and taking the grand tour, and I'd never done that. And let's start off. Tell us a little bit, what is EBAA Iron and what do y'all do?
Well, for starters, it is a family-owned business. It started by my parents, Earl and Billy Bradley, 1964. And my father had a background in the waterworks industry, so that kind of got us into that business. And primarily, that's the only thing we do. We do have a few sideline products, but it's almost all pertains to holding underground water mains together. And we are an iron foundry. That means we buy steel scrap, bring it in, melt it, pour it into molds. Then we extract the castings, we machine them, paint them, assemble them, and finally deliver them to their final destination.
And the final destination, any state here in the United States has some EBAA product underground somewhere, right?
Every one of them does, yes. The water line, it is the clamp that holds the water line together.
And you showed me yesterday that you have some that have flexibility capability for the earthquake-prone territories in the United States as well?
That's true. Most of them, of course, are sold out in California, and they are basically a swivel or ball joint on each end of this fitting with some telescoping abilities in the middle of it. And there again, that's for seismic protection of a water line.
And I guess the official name of this, is it the Megalug mechanical joint restraint? Is that what that is called?
That is the name of the rings that we sell, or one of the rings that we sell.
Yeah. Okay. Tell us a little history. You said it started in 1964, came to Eastland in 1973, and established on this property here. You started out working out of the old power plant.
That's correct. At the time, we were located in Frisco, Texas, and my father was looking for a place, believe it or not, farther out in the country than Frisco was at the time. And we were told about this land that was available in Eastland. None of us had ever heard of Eastland, but we came out here and looked at it. And the Industrial Foundation had the property. It was the old Texas Electric Power Plant that had been closed since about '64, I believe. So it had been closed about 9 years. And the Industrial Foundation sold it to us for a whopping $50,000, I believe. That was the building, the lake, the dam, and 65 acres of land.
So it came out here in '73. Your dad and you and your siblings. Let's see, you have introduce your siblings to us real quick.
Okay.
All involved in the business.
It was me. It was my older sister Les, and Jenny, who's passed away, and Jeff, who still works here in the sales department.
So you packed up all of your family, moved out here to Eastland, had this power plant, and that's where it all began. And now you don't operate anything in the power plant. It's all been moved out since then.
That's correct, yeah. The power plant didn't lend itself to expansion, just the nature of the building. It's a big stucco building, and it is very close to 100 years old. It was built in 1922.
Wow.
And so we moved up on the hill, away on the same property, away from the old building, and started building, putting up the metal buildings that are currently here today that we operate out of.
And tell us, what is a typical day at the foundry here in Eastland?
Currently, and this is sort of by election of the people, the employees they preferred to work 4 10-hour days instead of 5 8-hour days. They come in about 5 o'clock and get off around 3 o'clock. That especially this time of year, that helps them to avoid some of the heat in the afternoon. Most of the jobs today entail using all different kinds of lifting equipment, cranes and hoists and stuff, and forklifts, and where the physical lifting is nowhere near what it used to be. That's not to say it doesn't exist. It is still strenuous work.
Sure. And computers?
Well, a lot of it is automated now that didn't used to be, and a lot of these tougher jobs, like in the grinding shop, now 90% of the products that we sell are ground by robotic equipment that is computer controlled. So the employee basically loads a part in, pushes the go button, the robot grinds the casting, and then it pops it right back out, and the employee is really just loading and unloading a fixture on a robotic machine. So in that respect, that part is far easier than it used to be.
You have two other locations. You have a location in Albany, and then a location in Georgia. Tell us what happens at those two locations.
Well, we acquired the one in Georgia first. It was in 1985, and it was an iron foundry that had been shut down for about 6 months, I believe, and it happened to have the right piece of molding equipment that we needed, which was what made it desirable. And we opened it up as a foundry and machining center. As time went by, we enlarged the foundry here in Eastland and no longer needed the foundry in Georgia, so we closed that part of it down, brought some of the employees out here, and the rest of them went to work in the finishing department, assembling out there, where we still have a finishing department of about maybe 30 employees that we send them the components, they assemble them, and then they ship them up and down the East Coast.
Okay, and then Albany came into play at what point?
That was around 2005, I think. Yeah, and it is just an iron foundry. At the time, it was one of the most state-of-the-art foundries in the United States, and we would have visitors come from all over the world to come view that foundry, and still do from time to time.
Awesome. With the new businesses growing, or new construction growing, that's what drives your business. Most of your stuff goes underground for new construction.
Right. When a developer wants to build a new subdivision, wherever that may be in the United States, they have to first go in and put in utilities. And the stuff that goes in first is usually the underground water main, because they're typically underneath the street. That goes in first. Probably 95% of them are new installations and new subdivisions, or the larger diameter things go into water treatment plants.
You've been here since '73. You have about 350 employees currently. You've had as many as, 550?
Correct.
And 350 here in Eastland. You're a huge part of the economy here in Eastland County. Parents started very supportive of the community. Really gave back to the community in large ways. And you and Jeff and Leslie and Jim have continued that with the giving back to the community. What's so special about this Eastland community to the Bradleys?
Well, for starters, kids have to be taught how to be generous and the benefits of being generous and why it's the right thing to do. Most people don't just come up with that on their own. Parents were great instructors on the benefit of contributing to the town where you live, and not just the town, but charitable contributions in general. What a great thing that can be and how fulfilling that can be. So we were showed that by example at a very early age and all the way through adulthood. So well beyond before they passed away, that spirit was instilled in the kids and remains today.
That's a huge part. You got the Earl and Billy Bradley Wellness Center. That's just one of many things that the Bradley family has contributed to. And I know, speaking for myself and the community, how appreciative we are to y'all's generosity in giving back. E.T., before we transition out of this, anything else that I haven't hit on that you want our listeners to hear about EBAA Iron?
Well, we've been here a long time. 55 years we've been in business, and we have many, many employees who have been here for over 20 years. Actually, a third of our workforce has been here for over 20 years, and I think that is probably one of the greatest testaments and compliments anyone could give me and our family, is that they would want to stay that long. You got people that have stayed for 40 years
right,
and longer, because we've always believed that if you treat people fairly and with respect, that they will stay. And that's probably the greatest compliment that we as a company and individually could ever be paid. And we appreciate it. We appreciate the people that work here.
Fantastic. We're going to take a little break and go down to a meeting that's going on and meet some of these people that make it happen down here at EBAA Iron.
Product engineering building, where we engineer products. And now we're going to walk in on our weekly production meeting where the various department heads, the men that make this thing operate the way it does, at their weekly meeting. And lo and behold, look what we have here. Surprise, surprise. This is the weekly production meeting of EBAA Iron, and these are the men that make this operation run the way it does, which is almost flawless.